The Lantern Maker. In a small, forgotten village nestled in the shadow of towering mountains, there lived a poor man named Elias. He was known for his tattered clothes, his modest hut made of mud and straw, and a heart that shone brighter than the richest gems. Despite his poverty, Elias possessed an extraordinary talent. He could create beautiful lanterns that glowed like tiny stars when lit. Elias had inherited this skill from his father, who taught him the craft before passing away when Elias was only a boy. Since then, the art of lantern making had become Elias's lifeline. He would gather scraps of glass, wood, and wire from the village garbage, piecing them together to create his masterpieces. However, few villagers could afford to buy them, and Elias often gave them away to children who marveled at the magic of the light. The village itself was a place of despair. The crops failed year after year, and most people lived in hunger. The wealthier families had moved away, leaving behind the poorest of the poor. Yet Elias never complained. He believed that if he kept spreading light, both literally and figuratively, things would get better one day. A stranger's visit. One cold winter evening, as Elias was finishing a lantern shaped like a crescent moon, a stranger arrived in the village. He was a merchant, well-dressed and radiating an air of importance. The villagers, curious and hopeful, gathered around him. "I am traveling to the city," the merchant announced, "but my horse is tired, and night has fallen. Who will give me shelter?" The villagers hesitated, afraid of the burden of hosting such an important man. But Elias stepped forward. "My home is humble, but you are welcome," he said. The merchant accepted Elias's offer and followed him to the tiny hut. That night, Elias shared his last loaf of bread and showed the merchant his lanterns. "These are beautiful," the merchant remarked, his eyes wide with admiration. "Why are you still poor?" Elias smiled. "I don't make lanterns to become rich. I make them because light brings hope, and hope is priceless." The merchant said nothing but looked at Elias with newfound respect. An opportunity. The next morning, the merchant offered Elias a deal. "Come with me to the city. I know people who would pay handsomely for your lanterns." Elias hesitated. The village was his home, and leaving it felt like abandoning those who needed him. But the merchant added, "If you succeed, you can help your village far more than you can by staying here." After much thought, Elias agreed. He packed a few of his finest lanterns and left with the merchant. The City of Lights. The city was like nothing Elias had ever imagined. Tall buildings kissed the sky, and streets buzzed with activity. The merchant introduced Elias to wealthy traders and shopkeepers who marveled at the craftsmanship of his lanterns. Soon, Elias's creations were displayed in the grandest shops, and orders began pouring in. Elias worked tirelessly, pouring his heart into each lantern. Within months, he earned enough money to send supplies back to his village. He wrote letters encouraging the villagers to plant new crops, repair their homes, and build a better future. The return. Years passed, and Elias finally returned to his village. But it was no longer the place he had left behind. The fields were lush with crops, the huts were sturdy and painted, and the villagers greeted him with joy. Elias had used his earnings to fund irrigation systems, build a school, and start a lantern-making workshop to teach others his craft. His lanterns had not only brought light to dark rooms, but also to the lives of his people. That night, the entire village gathered to celebrate Elias's return. As the sun set, hundreds of lanterns illuminated the sky, a glowing tribute to the man who had never stopped believing in the power of light and hope. The legacy. Elias lived the rest of his life in the village, teaching, helping, and creating. His story spread far and wide, inspiring others to share their talents and kindness. To this day, the village is known as the Village of Lights, a testament to the poor man whose wealth lay in his unwavering faith and generosity.